Okay, now just bear with me here.
For over 100 years, Rotary members have taken action when challenges arise. We know what people can do when they come together and put others before themselves.
The team lead said they will continue the campaign to fight against the coronavirus.
Local Rotary clubs deliver food and supplies to people in need.
Strangers become friends, helping hands multiply, and problems turn into solutions. We are Rotary. We are people of action. Learn more at rotary.org/action.
Welcome to our session, our third in the foundation series this afternoon, as far as giving to Rotary today and tomorrow, giving to the Rotary Foundation. Thanks for being with us. I'm Patty Meehan from District 7280. And if that number still sounds strange, I'm one of the new Pennsylvania districts to our zone. And yes, it did snow up here on Sunday, but I'm glad you are all sharing your sunshine with us today. So joining me today to give you some ideas on how to motivate clubs, districts to keep supporting the foundation is a wonderful panel. And first, well, I'm going to introduce all of them. Our panelists are Paula Matthews from District 7770, who served in 2011-12, Vivian Krimble from District 70, and I just lost you, Vivian 7570, who served in 14-15, Rain Angelino, who served from District, I'm losing Lorraine now. Here's my notes, and I got them out of order. I apologize. From 7750, who served in 13-14. And of course, we have with us to start us off and be our moderator for the panel is Director Peter Kyle from District 7620, again, our director, who also served in 13-14. A year close to my heart since I got to serve in 13-14 as well. So with that, Peter, will you start us off with your thoughts and get our panelists started?
Great. Well, thanks, Patty. Thanks for that nice introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Always nice to have members of the first class, 13-14, on the team, Patty and Lorraine, and Lou. Yes, anybody else? Well, quality if not quantity. So today we're going to be talking about giving today and tomorrow to the Rotary Foundation. We're all familiar with the Rotary Foundation, but we're going to hear from the four panelists that Patty mentioned, Paula, Vivian, Lorraine, and Patty herself, on different aspects of giving, why we give, what we give for, and the different avenues of sustaining membership. Paul Harris, every Rotarian every year, major donors, and so on. Again, I think you're fairly familiar with most of the ways to give. So I don't want to say too much more. I want to introduce the panelists. And I think we're going to start with Vivian. So Vivian, if you're ready, please take it away.
Thank you, Director Peter. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good. I just want to share with you a series of presentations that we've been offering in District 7570 entitled Inspirational Journey of the Rotary Foundation. This is a virtual meeting that's offered in 4-part series of presentations that are offered once a month on Saturday mornings. But first, I want to give credit to the individuals who made this series possible and a reality. Our district planning, giving, and major gifts chairman, Dana Guthrie, as well as partnering with our major gifts officer, Lorraine Menzel, were the power behind this series. It was their concept, their planning, their preparation for each of the presentations that made this so successful. Now, we started off in January, and we kicked off the series with Trustee Gita Manik, who took us on a journey to Kenya. And she shared touching stories about the impact of Rotarians and how the impact that they're making to lives of so many. And she also shared her personal passion for Rotary Foundation as she walked us through the magic of Rotary. In February, we went to creating your own personal Rotary legacy. And you've heard one of the speakers today, Lee Beam. She was one of those individuals. The second presentation of that series took us to the future, hearing from Rotarians about Rotary causes that were important to them today, and how creating their personal endowment fund will ensure funding is available long after they're gone. In April, the third presentation, we went to Ghana and saw how a global grant brought water to an entire village, and that cascaded into so many positive outcomes, showing how important their gifts to the annual fair of fund share is. And we also learned about financial assets that they might not have considered using where they could accomplish their own charitable giving. In June, on a Sunday afternoon, we will finalize this series with Rotary Foundation Donor Celebration. And we have our guest speakers, past Rotary International Vice President Ann Matthews, and Zone 33 Rotary Regional Rotary Foundation Coordinator Nancy Barbie. This is an opportunity for us to say thank you in a number of ways by a number of people, and also at the end to toast our donors for their passion and their support. Now, if you agree that surprise and delight are how you want our donors to feel when they attend a virtual event, then I think this sums up District 7570's Rotarians and how they were left feeling about this presentations. We've received a great deal of positive feedback on how surprised Rotarians were at the great content and the information that they learned. And inviting all Rotarians in the district brought in many new people. It broadened the understanding of the Rotary Foundation, and it's led to new donors as well. But most of all, it has provided the District Rotary Foundation team for the opportunity to thank the donors for securing tomorrow's Rotary through their continued support each day. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Vivian. Some good insights there, some good stories. And now we pass over to Paula.
Thank you, Peter. Today I'm going to talk to you about a couple of little things that we've been doing this year. And the first one, when my mother was teaching me the proper etiquette, she always honed in on writing thank you notes and saying thank you to people. And I'm of the opinion that we can't say thank you to our donors enough. And I believe it was the first zone around a foundation meeting that Nancy had. I believe she said those exact words. You can't thank people enough. Just keep thanking them. And she's so right. So one of the things that I did this year was for every new major donor, bequest society, or major gift, I wrote a personal thank you note to those people, those members. And then I also sent the AG in that area a notice that they had achieved whichever honor they had, and asked that they thank them personally in a way that was comfortable for them. Some chose to do it at a club meeting, some made phone calls, and some wrote thank you notes. Now the list, I'm sure most of you know that through My Rotary, you can download the list every day, I guess, if you want to. I do it monthly. And it's called the Major Donor Arch Clump Society and Bequest Society Report. And I find it very helpful. In fact, a large donation was made by a personal friend of mine, and I was not aware of it until I saw that report. and it was a bequest. And so I was happy to see that because it gave me the opportunity to actually thank his widow in person one day when we were on a social occasion. And she so appreciated that, as well as that club did too, because they got some significant recognition. So never negate the personal value of thanking people verbally, virtually, or even a thank you note. Let's see, the second thing was to talk about our funds that how we use our DDF. And that came to mind during the conversations today because you've done some of the same things. You've modeled those kinds of behaviors today during these sessions. And so I have, in all my presentations throughout the year, told our members exactly how we were spending the DDF. We not only gave our 20,000, our 20% of our DDF, we do that the first part of July for polio. We also did another 25,000 matching program that Bernie came up with. And I'm sure he could tell you a lot more about that, which was a big success. We told them about the 2 global scholars, and I was able to tell them that who those scholarships were awarded to and which universities they came from. So it was like, really, in the case of the global scholars, it was two students who went to the University of South Carolina. So you couldn't get more local than that, which people always want to know how we're spending money locally, even though we know the power of our impact globally. Then we were able to tell them about the district grant money. That is the largest portion of our DDF that goes directly to fund district grants for our clubs. Our clubs apply for those district grants. Some of you may be doing this, and this may be old information to you, but the largest portion goes to our clubs. In fact, we're in that cycle right now. Now, to be eligible to even apply for a district grant, a club must send 2 members to the Memorandum of Understanding training, the MOU training, and then they have to sign that document and get it back to us in order to apply. The second thing they have to do in order to apply is that the club must be E-Ray, every Rotarian, every year by May 15th. That's Saturday, y'all. That's Saturday. And that's a little work following up with folks, but it really is proving to be extremely helpful. In fact, we're at 90% of our clubs have already obtained E-Ray. So that's really helpful for the annual fund. And the third thing they need to do before they actually get the check is they need to send in the closing report for the grant they had this year. There are a number of things they're doing. We have one club who is doing an urban gardening project in a zip code area in which there is a food desert, teaching these folks how to grow vegetables, fresh vegetables and fruits. This particular area that we're working in has the largest percentage of diabetes and amputations in the state of South Carolina. So we're trying to make a difference there. There's another club that does a swim project, a safe swim project, and they partner with a local organization to do that. Living on the coast, they think it's important that children know how to swim and swim safely. So that's just an example of 2 things that are being done with that district grant money. I think I covered it, Patty and Peter. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Paula. I can't thank you enough, Paula. Thank you very much. I do want to thank you sincerely.
Love it. I love it.
Nice job, and it's good to be reminded of the importance of
Mm.
team. So now we move to Lorraine.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to talk about some ways to encourage giving. And I know districts do this differently and some clubs do this differently, but I'm going to talk about a couple of things that we do in District 7750, which is Western South Carolina. Each year, at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, we'll have a governor's challenge. And so we highlight the governor, and typically we do something similar to if they give to their club, the governor will match that with points. Sometimes, points you can't transfer unless it's 100 or more. So if it's less than 100, the governor might give them 100 points. If they do it online, we try to double it, because we're really trying to encourage more people to go online and make their contributions there. And some people might ask why. Well, we typically find once we can get people online to make their contributions, that they then want to see how much have I given. And by doing that, they see how much they're given and they go, well, I can give more. And this was easy. So it really does, let the person have control over their dollars. And they don't have to worry about giving it to the treasurer, and the treasurer then, hold on to it. They don't have control if it really goes in. So we try to do that through the challenge, the governor's challenge. And we're actually having a challenge that ends tomorrow. And so I've been taking a lot of phone calls for that. But you take the time and you get them online, and I get to show them a couple of different things that they can do and maybe set up a recurring contribution. So that's kind of really neat. And each year we do quite a bit of contributions during that time. And this is typically in addition to where they're making their quarterly contributions with their dues. So this is usually extra money, if you will. But we're finding that is very, very helpful, and brings in quite a bit of money for the foundation. So that's one thing we do this year too. Rocky, you'll like this one. I chose a polio chair that had a passion for giving to polio. So what he did was, he's our newest Arch Clump Society member. And as part of that, he said, well, why don't I encourage others to give to polio through a match? And so that's what he did. And he only included those that gave $100 or more in the match. And if they did it through their club, he gave them 100 points. If they did it online, they got 200 points for every $100. We collected, had contributions in the amount of 26,000, and he matched that. So that was $52,000 for polio within 1 month. So, I mean, there's different things you can do. You can challenge in different ways. The clubs had their own challenges on top of that. So like my club, we do skip a meal. We call it skip a meal, and everybody, makes contributions. If they make 100 or more, our club actually gave them 100 points. If they made it online, we did the 200, in addition to what our polio chair, Doug Kaufman, did. So, you can make different things to, set up little gains. You can do different things to help people, to encourage them to give. one other thing I want to talk about, and that's what do we do for the new Rotarian? A lot of times you'll have a new Rotarian come in. They, our club, we let them know our expectation is that with the dues, that there is going to be a request for $25 for the Rotary Foundation. It is not mandatory, it is optional, but we let them know that we have a culture of giving in our club. And so they know that it's kind of expected, but we understand if they can't. But in my club, people come in the door, they know that. Then we have what we call points for service. Because, getting that new Rotarian in, getting them to the Paul Harris Fellow level is so important. And with the points for service, they get to go out and look in the community, find out what we've done. They get points for being part of our upcoming service projects, being on a committee. So we get them acclimated really quick and engaged in Rotary through this points for service. And they also have to make a $100 contribution, which we then match. They have to go through orientation. They have to go online and set up an account on My Rotary. They have to go in and see where their contributions are going. So we have all of these things that they have to do. And in the end, they get a Paul Harris Fellow. And so within the year, typically, every member that comes into our club is a Paul Harris Fellow. But they also know so much about Rotary. And, it's not that first year when you're trying to figure it out. No, they have it figured out because they're a part of this Rotary for Service or Points for Service. And they really make it a really kind of fun thing, especially when 2 or 3 of them are doing it at the same time. Several years ago, we were having the governor come and there was 3 of them that wanted to get their Paul Harris Fellow Award when the governor was there. And I said, you guys need like 200 points. And they said, what can we do to get those 200 points? And I said, go to the local park, go see our projects at the park and send me pictures. And so they raced off to the park right after our Rotary Club meeting. And within about 30 minutes, I had pictures coming over my phone. Wow, we did this too. And so that when the governor came a couple weeks later, we were able to give them their Paul Harris Fellow with the governor. And, it's that excitement that you want to do with the Rotary Foundation. And, once they learn what we've done, then they're willing to make those contributions. So that's kind of how we get our district or our clubs involved in the Rotary Foundation. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Lorraine. I love the points of service. I love the pledge. It's a really creative thinking going on in your part of the world, which is fabulous. And we're going to have some questions very soon. But the last member of the panel is Patty Meehan. Patty, are you there? Are you ready to take it away?
I am. I'm going to sort of piggyback off of some of Lorraine's ideas. We in District 7280, we've had a past district governor who has been able to be very generous to the Rotary Foundation. So that means he has lots and lots and lots of points. And the past few years, he has approached all of the incoming governors and offered that as part of their district governor visits that they promote. And he just wants it to be anonymous as far as that if they will give to the Rotary Foundation, he will match new money up to $500. So he'll match with 500 points, again, to ideally get them their first Paul Harris. I remember, a few years ago when, I think as new Rotarians, like Lorraine mentioned, that getting that first Paul Harris may seem like, how do you do that? What does it even mean? And so therefore, he's willing to share all those points. They're just sitting there and give them a little bit of a boost. to try to get that started. And, maybe they're a brand new Rotarian, so they were able to give $500. And so then he's matched it, and, there they go. They're on their first Paul Harris. I will admit that one of the challenges with that is sometimes when the governors are visiting, especially on their official visits, I'm not sure it always gets the time in the presentation, which is understandable. So I know as we keep looking at that and thinking how we are underusing that opportunity, we really want to try to promote it just so that people can engage in that, definitely get to the Paul Harris and obviously encourage, new giving. I know during the centennial year for the foundation, the district governor then really was promoting clubs to look at points, look at giving, and see how many clubs could become 100% Paul Harris clubs. And I know during that year, we had 4 or 5 clubs step up with new giving, as well as looking at the points that they had, which to me gave them a good opportunity to not only give more, but understand, like Lorraine's talking about, some facets of the foundation in giving and what that means to be a Paul Harris donor. So as part of his district conference, I do believe there was at least 4 100% Paul Harris clubs recognized, with the banner and with definitely a lot of fanfare to help celebrate the centennial of the foundation. So just need to keep working on it. I think I'm going to borrow some of Lorraine's ideas with those points now, so we can get even a little bit better mileage out of that and help Rotarians understand as far as what that giving is. And in our district, I've seen that when they do get that first Paul Harris, especially in my own club, they do seem to be engaged more. And in the Sharon Club, we also have a culture of giving, not that anyone is pressured at all, but we've been 100% giving club now for about 7 years. So nobody wants to break that chain. So they want to keep that going. And we've been lucky enough to be #1 in the district in giving for several years. So we've got a couple of clubs pushing us, which is good. And there's where that online really helps. I know a couple of us sort of play games on the wee hours of June 30th, as far as trying to figure out what can we guess to maybe outgive the other one to vie with that 100% giving and being the #1 or #2 in the district. Like Lorraine said, also with that online giving, I'm sure we're all remembering it, but maybe I don't share enough the importance of the online giving, that how much faster it is. And in this pandemic that we're all just coming through, there's been delays because there's not as much staff there to be able to post that and do that credit. Whereas if you do that online, that giving is that you can track it yourself, but you can see the results in your club or district giving a lot faster when you do use the online tools that we have at Rotary. So I think those are sort of cool things to see, that when you can see that your gift shows up on your recognition summary, how that maybe encourages others. And when they understand that what their giving accomplishes, as well as the points, and how that can be turned into a competition. So Peter, I'll send it back to you. I'm sure there's probably some questions you've been seeing, so I'll let you go ahead and monitor those.
Great. Well, thank you, Patty. Yes, there've been a couple of questions. I do want to give Brian also a chance to comment. Brian, are you still on the screen somewhere? You don't have.
Yes.
If there's anything you'd like to say, the deadlines, would you like to
Sure.
speak up?
Sure. Excuse the cuckoo clock. Yeah, thanks, Peter, and hello, everyone, again. I just put in the chat box. You may have seen that, but I wanted to remind everyone, and to piggyback what Patty just mentioned, online giving's the quickest, safest way to for a Rotarian to give to the Rotary Foundation. But if they are still a little bit hesitant, we still obviously take checks. Make sure the checks are mailed to the 14280 Collection Center Drive address. But anyway, in the chat box, there's a one-page PDF. And if you need it after this, feel free to reach out to me. But hang on to that. It's full of deadlines, other key information. Patty did mention we are still working remotely, RI staff. I think there's a few folks that go in every few weeks or so. So if checks are mailed to one Rotary Center, there's an extended delay. So that's where encourage online contributions. If not, if a check is mailed in, please make sure it's sent to the 14280 Collection Center Drive address. That was it that I thought of. Thanks,
Okay.
Peter, for letting me chime in there.
Thanks, Brian. We've had a suggestion from Kimberly to talk about points. Nancy, Lorraine, Patty, anybody want to talk about points to clarify what that is?
I'll talk, I can talk to points, depending on exactly what they're looking for. They call me the points queen. I can do anything you want to do with the points, but there's some couple rules. You can't transfer less than 100 points at a time. So, and then some people ask, do you always have to fill out the sheets? And there are sheets where you can transfer points for one person. But I find usually when I'm doing it, I'm transferring points for about 100 people. So I do a spreadsheet and I send that directly to the Rotary Support Center. And then they send it on to who manually has to do that. But basically you have to have the same information if you were transferring dollars. And then you have to have approval from the person that you're transferring points from. So what, I'm not sure who put it in there that about points. Does somebody want to ask the actual question that you're looking for points?
Yeah, I was just confused as to what the points are and how you get the points.
Okay. So when you make a contribution to the foundation, for every dollar you give, you get points. So if I give $1,000, I get 1,000 points. Now that 1,000 points I cannot use for myself, but I can use it for other Rotarians or a non-Rotarian if I want to honor someone out in the community. A lot of times I like to honor a Interact or Rotaract student. And I make one of them a Paul Harris Fellow every year. Other times you might find somebody in the community that you think has done a very nice job, has been giving in other ways. You can also make them a Paul Harris Fellow. A lot of spouses are made Paul Harris Fellows. Children of Rotarians are made Paul Harris Fellows. But once you get 1,000 points, then you can make somebody a Paul Harris Fellow. Or if you have a lot of points, then you might want to help with your club in matching points and encourage others to give. So if somebody gives, you can say, hey, you're 500 away from becoming a Paul Harris Fellow. If you give 250 cash, I'll match that with 250 points. And so different people are doing different things with the points to encourage giving. I don't encourage as much to give 1,000 points to a brand new Rotarian coming in the door, simply because it may not mean as much if they don't earn it in some way. Now, if you have somebody that's coming in that's done a fantastic thing out in the community, okay, but you know, you want to make sure that people are earning that award in some fashion or making a contribution. You want to use those points for that.
All right, Lorraine, thank you. You've answered one of the questions in the chat box, which was, can someone transfer their points to a club or to a district? And the answer, yes.
No, they can't. It can't be a direct. They can transfer points to an individual only. But if, say, a district's doing a points match, they can pledge their points, but it's actually going to go to an individual. It can't, like the district can't say, okay, I want everybody's points, and they put in a bucket and then distribute it from there. No, the district's going to have to write down, this person's going to give so many points. And then, but when you go to make the transfer, it has to be out of that person's account, not out of a district or club account.
So another question in the chat box: how can members of a club get a Paul Harris award in memory of a member that has died?
You can do it. In fact, I did one for my grandfather. So yes, you can. There's one that's in memory of. You just have to let them know. Because I transferred 1,000 points to my grandfather, and I just let them know it was in that he had already passed.
Okay. And Chuck Davidson makes the point that recognition points have one purpose only. They are to enable another person to be recognized for your cash contributions. It's well to bear that in mind. Thank you, Chuck. Sheila mentions her club matches every new Rotarian with 500 points in their first year, so that they only have to come up with half for their first Paul Harris Fellowship. Thanks, Sheila. I guess you can read the chats that are addressed to everyone. Lee has given an example of the Stanton Rotary Club. Any more specific questions?
Peter, this is Lee. One thing our Rotary Club did a couple of years ago, in order to get people, most people can't think about going from being a sustainer to a Paul Harris Society member in one fell swoop. So we came up with a program called Sustainer Plus. And it may have been an Olympics year. So we have bronze, silver, and gold sustainers. And so the idea was $100, you're a sustainer, $200, you're a bronze sustainer. I think we went $400, you're a silver sustainer, $800, you're a gold sustainer, and then at $1,000, you're a Paul Harris Society member. It's nothing official with the Rotary Foundation. It was just for ways for people to think about giving more money. But then when we list all our sustainers on our directories and on our sustainer bulletin program like that we do once a year, we have the people identified as being a bronze, silver, gold, or normal sustainer. And if you go between 100 and 200, you're just called a Sustainer Plus. That's actually gotten people to thinking about it because, you know, $100, a sustainer has been $100 for years. And the cost of everything has gone up. So we were trying to get people to do a little bit more. And I think we have about 20% of our club is giving more than $100 now because they like that. So anyway, it's just a.
Great. Well, thanks, Lee. That's another really good creative suggestion. Kay Gresham, I think you have a suggestion that you'd like to share with the group.
I do. We have a 200 plus club membership, and a lot of our members are not using online. We found that out, and they're just not willing to do it. So what I've done for the past 3 years, and this is very time consuming, but it has brought in quite a bit of money, is that I do a letter to every member, and it lists what their status of giving is every year. And I do this in January and probably in February, time for their January dues to come in, because we do have a place on our dues letter for them to make a payment to the annual fund. So I wait for those dues to be able to come in. It lists what they've given to Paul Harris, what their Paul Harris status is, what we have a Second Century Fund, Polio Plus. It lists everything that they've done year to date, since, or not only year to date, but since they've become a Rotary member. It also lists what our president's goal is for that particular Rotary year. And then I'll talk about what the Rotary Foundation does and some of our recent projects for the Rotary Foundation. Then I go into what our Rotary Club does locally and list recent projects that our Rotary Club has done. And then I hit them saying, this is why you need to support Rotary. And as I said, it is time intensive. Send this, I handwrite the letters, the envelopes, sign them. And I usually write a note down at the bottom, thanking them for what they've done. Wow, look what we've done. Look what your dollars are doing now and in the future. Send them a return envelope so that they can send money back to our club secretary. And we start getting money in. They see what the goal is, they see what they've done. And if they haven't given to any of these things, then I just put none or 0, not to embarrass them, but just whatever. And then after a few months, for some of our newer members or for some members who have been members for a while or maybe have not given but a couple $100 or $300, I'll write a note at the top saying, look how close you are to becoming a Paul Harris Fellow. Call me about matching points. And if they haven't called, then I'll do a separate little note to them or call them and follow up to see what we can do, because we do have some matching points available, and follow up with them about using some of those matching points. So that's another thing. If people have time to do it, that has been pretty successful for us. A lot of follow-up, but it's another way.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing, Kay. As you say, quite a lot of work involved, but the result is worth it. So congratulations to you and your club for that initiative. We've had quite a few quite good ideas this afternoon. I think this is great. Any other questions or comments for any of our panel? Vivian?
Peter?
Yes, please.
I'm Dee Boswell, past district governor, and I came in late. I have one question for the foundation. Can you donate money to the annual fund or the permanent fund and designate it to a specific global grant?
Anyone like to answer that? In default, we'll go to Brian.
Sure. So was it D? I apologize, I missed your first name. But so it's actually, the annual fund is separate than an approved global grant. So, you know, the annual fund, it's directed to the annual fund, but then it kind of goes into that pot of money that can go out in DDF and whatnot. So if I heard the question right, you're talking about two different things. Does that get at what your question is?
No, my question is this: can I put money into the Rotary Foundation and designate it for a specific global grant? For instance, if another club is involved in a global grant, can I put money in the foundation and designate it to that global grant?
So it has to be an approved global grant. I'm going to have some others chime in that have worked. It looks like Lorraine can chime in. So I'll let you go, Lorraine. I don't want to confuse things.
Okay, so yes, you can, if you know the global grant number, you can make the contribution to the global grant. But I will tell you, it used to be that they then matched at 50%. That does not occur anymore. It would just be a contribution to that global grant of dollars.
Right.
The other thing to add is on the 123 contribution form, that's where, as Lorraine just mentioned, you can write in the global grant number if you're sending in a check.
You can also go directly online when you hit donate, and there is, it actually gets all of the different foundation areas, and it has a point where it says global grant. And if you know the number, you can put the number right in and then put your credit card in also. So you can do that directly online.
Thanks, Chris. Comments, questions?
Peter?
I have a comment that I think actually Rocky's on the line, and he had mentioned at our team meeting the other day about the MOU qualification that some districts have that includes that a club has to donate money to in order to receive a grant. And I explained to the team at that time that during an audit about 4 years ago, we had a district up in the New England area that got slammed because they were doing that. And it clearly states in the RI MOU that you cannot actually deny a club from receiving a grant or making that a stipulation. So, but what you can do to get around that is you can scale how you distribute your grant money. So what we did in District 7950 is any club can apply for a grant, or if they've gone through the qualification system, but if they have not given any money, then they only get $250 towards their district grant. That's their only award. And that's how we got around that stipulation that's in the MOU. So just to be aware of that, I know we just had up on the East Coast, we had another district that has been suspended because the auditors are going around. So just be aware of that for your districts and your district DRFCs and leaders.
Great. Thanks for that warning, Chris.
Peter?
4 minutes. Any comments, questions?
Yeah, Peter, I just had one follow-up to that. I agree with that. It's a slippery slope. Another thing we've done in District 7280, because it only does seem fair that for those giving, that they get some priority on getting grants, is we also offer, if you haven't given anything, we'll let you have a grant, a full look at a grant, and with the hopes that then in following years that you will contribute. But it's sort of like a one-time exemption as far as to participate fully, with the idea that then maybe if you haven't seen the light, that by participating in the district grants, that you do see the value of giving to the foundation.
Thanks for that, Patty. Got a couple more minutes, otherwise I'll just make a comment, if I may. Any other last minute questions? We've had quite a number of quite good suggestions. I hope that you'll follow up and get in touch with the people who made these suggestions. You can easily access Lorraine, Patty, Vivian, and Paula. I think their emails are freely available. I'd just like to, just in closing, to thank everybody for taking the time to be on the call, and particularly to thank the panelists. As Paula said, we can't thank you enough. So I want to thank you again, because we cannot thank you enough. So I do want to make a point about the internationality of Rotary. One of the reasons the foundation does so well is because we are very well regarded internationally. We tend to think of ourselves as a local community-based organization, and projects tend to flow up from the base. But we have an incredible international footprint, largely because of the relationship we developed with the United Nations way back in 1945, and has been continued with various UN agencies ever since then. I went to the headquarters of UNESCO in Paris a couple of years ago. They rolled out the red carpet for me, and I'm not used to red carpet treatment. I asked, why are you doing this? And they said, we regard Rotary as one of the world's leading civil society organizations. And I've heard that comment from UNICEF, from the World Bank. Rotary International has an incredible international footprint. We are one of the world's leading humanitarian organizations. We get 4-star ratings from Charity Navigator every year. We raise around $400 million. There are Rotary projects all over the world. Polio, of course, is our flagship project. But I do want you to know that internationally, one of the reasons we do so well is because of the respect that our brand has. We've been around for a long time. We are financially very sound. I just find I'm just very proud to be a Rotarian. I travel widely around the world prior to my retirement. I've been to many, many countries and seen many projects, Rotary projects. And when you see the wheel and you meet the people who are involved, it's a tremendous sense of pride in belonging to this organization. So in addition to the good that we give, and the warm feeling that we get from giving, we're doing a lot of very practical, well-received humanitarian projects all around the world. So continue to reach out, continue to support the foundation, continue to promote it, thank donors, explore some of the innovative suggestions that we've received this afternoon. And with that, unless Lorraine or Patty, unless you have some other closing comments you want to make, we'll draw this session to a conclusion. We're right on time. I think there's another session starting at 3 o'clock. Thank you for your participation. Enjoy the rest of the day.